Here we are. Welcome back. Sports Fantasies of Miller and McCarty. We have special guest Jim Sinicropi joining us tonight. Here in segment two, we're going to jump into some uncharted territory for us recently, and that's the basketball world. We've been sticking to a lot of football and baseball stuff, but with the special guest on, we wanted to kind of cater to him. So here we are. We're going to cater to him, and we're going to start out with some NCAA finals predictions. Of course, the championship game is tomorrow night for the men. So, Jim, if you want to kick us off here and let us know your thoughts on the championship, we'll go you, McCarty, and myself.
I want a nice two-team parlay. A couple things. The first two rounds of this NCAA tournament, I bet every underdog on the money line, as long as it was plus odds. So if it was like a 1 point line and the money line favorite was like minus 110 or whatever, I didn't bet those. Any money line underdog, not favorite, any money line underdog that was plus odds, except for 16 seeds, I bet every single one. And I did really well. It's something I'll probably continue doing. And I didn't think there was an overwhelming amount of upsets. So I'm pretty proud of myself there. That was a nice couple first two rounds of our first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. But as far as the championship goes, I think UConn will be tough to beat. I know they have a great center to put up against Edie, and I also hit a nice two-team parlay in the semifinals. I took both teams, both favorites, and the points, and won that. So I'm feeling pretty good about the way this tournament's gone so far. Although all my brackets were busted, but I like UConn. Even as a Syracuse guy, it pains me to say, but they're the best team,
Yeah,
and the best team usually wins.
they're in different conferences now. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
McCarty.
Well, I was gonna take Purdue, but Jim knows a lot more about basketball than I do. So now I'm 180. I love UConn. Give me some UConn tomorrow night. I am excited to see the battle of these two. I think they're both like 8'9" centers for Purdue and UConn. Look. Tennessee should have beat Purdue. Every time Edie comes down, he gets in the paint. He never they never make him go out and then reestablish in the paint. It's a 3-second every time he's down the court, but they won't call it. I want him to call it, Miller, because the guy's in the paint for 8 seconds at a time. But anyway,
disclaimer, Jim.
I think the difference on it.
McCarty might reside in Tennessee at this point in his life, so a little homerish, complaining there, but.
They had a great year. Really disappointing when you get a team like that and they can't, punch the ticket to at least get to the Final Four, because they were a great team this year. But that's the part of March Madness that's tough. So, I mean, there's been so many great Syracuse teams that weren't able to get it done.
Yeah,
and it's tough to take sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the difference tomorrow night, honestly, is going to be that Edie, every team he's played, he's just been so much taller, more skilled at that position than anybody on the court. The problem they have against UConn is you have a guy that's about as tall and just as skilled. And UConn's other players are better than Purdue's. Purdue, outside of Edie, I think are, I don't want to, they're playing D1 ball. They're good players. I just think UConn has a lot more depth outside of the center position. And so if the UConn center is able to contain Edie at any rate better than other teams, and I do like UConn, although I do think the last I saw it was +6. I think that's a bit high. That's a bit high there. So I might lean Purdue if you're going to look at the going on the point spread, but I do think UConn wins.
Should be a good one.
I can really add
the
much
game
more
earlier
to what you just
today.
said.
The girls' game earlier
Go ahead,
today
Jim.
was fantastic. That South Carolina Iowa game earlier today was fantastic on the girls' side. It was the whole Final Four, the whole Caitlin Clark thing. South Carolina was the best team, though, undefeated all year, and they took care of business. That's what I see happening with UConn. I just think they're a better team.
Yeah, South Carolina was impressive. Don't get Miller started on Caitlin Clark, and I will be here all night. But I've watched more of the women's tournament this year than I have the men's because of Caitlin Clark, because of the girl from Syracuse, the guard there that was doing good things, and UConn. It was a good watch this year for the women's tournament.
Yeah, Deisha Fair for Syracuse doesn't get enough press, if you ask me. She's like the fourth leading scorer in NCAA history. It's really kind of remarkable, and she's an afterthought because of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I just think Deisha Fair should have been given a little more love in this year that everybody was focused on women's college basketball.
I agree.
I would agree as well.
Is Miller still here?
I think UConn. I think UConn wins the game going away. I don't think it's. Ian said it's 6 points. I'd give the points and feel good about it. I just think they're a deeper, more talented team. Edie's fun to watch, but you guys already touched on that, so not much more I can say about that. So we'll jump into our next topic here. So we're going to go a little top 5 college basketball players in terms of 24-25 NBA fantasy value. Each of us are going to give 5. So we'll do the same thing here that we did with the top 5 before, Jim. You'll give us your 5, 4, and 3. Then McCarty will give his. I'll give mine. Then we'll do 2 and 1 ping pong style. So give us your 5, 4, and 3 here.
All right. Not a huge NBA fan. Love college basketball. Used to play a lot of fantasy NBA. They haven't done that in a while, in over 10 years probably. I do like the NBA playoffs, but again, it depends with a lot of these draft picks, what situation they end up in, which is why my number 5 is Reed Sheppard from Kentucky. Looks like he might go to the Pistons. If he goes to the Pistons, he'll probably have an opportunity to get a lot of minutes. He's a great shooter, 70% regular season from the field, a great assist to turnover ratio. So if he does go to like Detroit or a situation like that where he can see immediate time, he could have an impact. We were talking about Connecticut. My number 4 is Donovan Clegan from Connecticut. That's 7'2", 280. That's what the NBA's turning into is, a league of 7'2", 7'3", 7'4" guys that play almost like guards. Now he doesn't play like a guard, but I think whoever he goes to, he's instantly going to improve their protection at the rim, their rebounding. He's going to alter shots in the paint. So I think he'll be on the court. So I included him. And then number 3 is a bit of a reach maybe, but I think he has a high ceiling, especially if he goes to someone where he can get a chance, or maybe a team like Boston. But it's Bailey Shireman from Creighton, 343 career 3-pointers. He's makes shots from all over the court. He's got size at 6'7", high level passing IQ, good rebounder. He's a 4-category guy, and he might end up going in the second round of the NBA draft, but I think he might have an impact this year, fantasy-wise.
I like Jim's number 3s. He's always going off script. I like it.
Yeah, all right.
McCarty, where are you going?
So my 5, 4, 3. Full disclosure: don't listen to anything I say because I didn't see that much college basketball this year, but I've seen a couple of these guys play a few minutes, so that's what I'm going on. My number 5, Kentucky, Rob Dillingham. His comp is Darius Garland. He scores, creates. I think he'll start day 1. My number 4 is, I believe, the G League's leading scorer, Ron Holland. 19 points per game last season in the G League. He's projected to be a lottery pick, and he's already been doing it against pretty big time competition. Now my number 3, one that I have him a little higher than Jim does, another Kentucky player, Reed Shepherd, able to create his own shot. Like Jim said, he's going to do a little bit of everything. He's kind of that stat stuffer, and projected a top 5 to 10 pick. So depending on where he goes, he should be seeing pretty big minutes early on.
All right, that brings us to me. My number 5, Jim, I agree with you with Reed Shepherd. 12.5 points per game on 54% shooting, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game. The one thing that kept coming up when I was doing the research for this is that he's finally going to have a coach that knows what they're doing and is going to be able to help him improve on the fly, unlike Calipari. So could see him average more in the NBA than we did at Kentucky right away. My number 4, Ian, you mentioned this guy, Rob Dillingham, also from Kentucky, 15 points per game, 4 assists, shot 47.5% from the field. Another guy that will probably thrive in the NBA. And then number 3, I went Jacoby Walter from Baylor, 14.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds. Some people really like this kid. I've seen him 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on top 5, 10, and 20 list. But I think his game really translates well to the NBA. So, Jim, we're going to come back to you for your number 2.
I think McCarty will like this one. I'm going with Dalton Knecht from Tennessee. I mean, look at this guy. 40-point game against Kentucky, 39 against Auburn, 31 against South Carolina, 39 against Florida, 37 points against North Carolina. I mean, he's a scorer, and, it's going to – when you put up points like that at the college level against these quality opponents, it's just an indication that you're going to be able to score at the next level too. So, again, we'll see what situation he gets drafted into, but I think he's a future all-star.
Yeah, I had the same at number 2. He's throughout the year has risen up, and now they're projecting him to be a top 5 pick. I went and watched him in person this year against Auburn, and he just pretty much checks every box. We'll see defensively. There'll have to be some adjustments there to that next level of competition in the NBA from that standpoint. But high basketball IQ. He can do it all, and he looks like one of those guys that when you need him to take over a game, he can take over a game.
He is not on my list, mostly because I was trying to upset McCarty.
What?
But that's just something that I like ridiculous. To do in my spare time. Number 2, Cody Williams from Colorado, 12 points a game on 55% field goal shooting, 3 rebounds, 6'8" guy. I think his game also translates well to the NBA. Of course, I'll be wrong on all of these, so you should probably listen to Jim and then maybe McCarty. Jim, you're number 1.
I hate to say it because I can't stand Duke. I just really, really don't like Duke. But Kyle Filipowski, 7-foot guy that plays like a guard. That's what the NBA is nowadays. He fits the mold, and he's probably going to have a long, successful NBA career, and he's probably going to enter the league as a rookie and average close to a double-double, throwing in some assists as well. So, sorry to say, got to be Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah, he's a good player. My number 1, I may have broken the rules here. I didn't go college. I went international. I don't know if that was a part of this list or not, but I went Alex Sarr.
You've broken the rules. You've broken the rules twice.
Oh, well, this is where I want to go. France. And so maybe this would be everybody's one if we went international, but I'd like to talk about him anyway. He's projected as the first overall pick. 6'11", his comp is Jaren Jackson. He can shoot, he can rebound, block shots, create shots. He's going to be a stud.
The top 10
Jim,
of the NBA draft, you might see as many as 8 or 9 of them be international players.
Yeah, there's a few out there for sure.
It is possible, yeah. And this is what I deal with on a consistent basis, Jim. I send these agendas out. That way we can prepare for him, and McCarty doesn't actually read them. He just does what he wants. But because he mixes down the shows, I can't complain too much. So
Everybody's
my
got their
number
role.
one is exactly. My number one is Stephen Castle from UConn, a do-it-all combo guard who defends as well or better than he scores. He averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists as a true freshman. His game, again, another guy is supposed to translate very well to the NBA. I've seen him in mock drafts as be the first non-international player taken, and I've also seen him just outside the top 10 in a couple places. I have watched a couple of the UConn games, so I really like the way he plays. He's a big part of the reason why I think UConn will ultimately win tomorrow going away. So that was my number one. And that ends our top
Yeah,
5
my only
24-25 college basketball players. Well, for 2 of us. Yes, you're only what?
well, hang on. Yeah, my only knock on him is when you talk about fantasy is he's going to be on the floor because he's an elite defender, but you don't get any stats other than steals in fantasy for being a good defender. So that was my only knock on him is
Steals, blocks, and
how does the
rebounds, but
offensive game translate?
I mean, that's
Well, he
only
ain't getting a
3
lot of blocks.
categories that you get in fantasy basketball. I'm just saying, I mean, defense is defense.